everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this new 2021, I thought I'll start the year by showing you guys some of the watches that I have in my personal collection. These are all watches that I love, that I paid for, that all holds to a certain extent some meaning to me. I plan to do one at the start of the year and one at the end of the year, so you can see how my collection evolves and changes over time. What pieces stay and what pieces leaves the collection. So without further ado, we have a lot of watches to go through, so let's start. So in chronological order, so my latest watch acquisition is this. So here we have the Omega Speedmaster. However, this is not your regular variant. If I bring it closer to the camera, you might tell that even though it looks black, it's actually a dark, warm chocolate brown. So prices for this has been increasing in the Imperial market. It is commonly referred to as the Omega Speedmaster Professional Chocolate or Hot Chocolate. It has a very lovely sapphire case back, which you can see the 1863 movement. A very nice watch. I always want to get a Speedmaster. It's sort of the most iconic, I would assume, chronograph out there. When I heard recently, that Omega was discontinuing their Speedmaster line, or rather, their more affordable Speedmaster line, I saw this, at a good price. There was no hesitation. I got this almost immediately. Yeah, it's one of my favorite watches to wear nowadays. I love the subtlety of the chocolate brown dial, and how perhaps at first glance, you might mistake it for a regular black dial Speedmaster, but upon closer inspection, the rarity of the dial, how it mimics the tropical dials of some of your vintage Speedmaster, it starts to show itself, and it looks very good on the wrist as well. Yeah, currently one of my favorite watches to wear. Alright, up next is my JLC Reverso. So I always wanted a Reverso. As you guys will see later on, my taste in watches is a bit more dress. So the Reverso to me has always been that quintessential dress watch, a gentleman's watch. It's the design that's remained unchanged since the 1930s. Even the mechanism of the reversible mechanism has remained fairly unchanged. So there are a lot of variation of the Reverso. You have a dual phase, you have sub-seconds, but I prefer this. It's a very clean aesthetic that harkens back to the original 1930s design of the watch. Let me reverse it here. So just like in your vintage pieces, as in the original pieces, this has a solid case back. It's not your dual face one. I like it as such. I think it's more historically accurate, and it's also, as you guys can see, it's a very thin watch. So next is my Tudor Black Bay Dark. So I always liked the Black Bay line. I don't have much sport watches or dive watches, if this can be considered a dive watch, but there's a heritage aspect of the Black Bay line that's always drawn me towards the line. But of course, even though all the hype is on the Black Bay 58, but those prices are outrageous and they're not readily available. When I saw this dark version, I simply fell in love with the sporty aesthetics of it. So commonly referred to as the all black watch, because number one is all black. Number two, because Tudor is a collaboration with the rugby team as well. I really love the sporty nature of it. It's a very modern watch, but inspired of course by a very vintage design. And apparently it's quite hard to get nowadays as well, this dark version. So yeah, a really lovely, and this the piece I reached to on my sportier casual days. Alright, up next is my Nomos Tangente 38, but the hourglass version, 2018 version I believe, with the salmon dial. So I always like German watches, especially Nomos. I think as compared to Swiss watches, they present more value, and I think they're some of the most underappreciated and underrated brands out there. Nomos, has in-house calibers, very iconic Bauhaus design. When I think of Bauhaus, Nomos is the first brand I think of. So yeah, I really do like the minimalist aspect of this watch. So this red dot edition was supposed to remind me of home. But of course, COVID scrapped that, so scrapped those plans of me residing overseas. So here I am in Singapore. Very lovely watch, a limited edition. I think one of 100 as stated in the case back. Look at that, for the price of nice in-house caliber, very nicely finished manual winding movement. Nothing great technologically wise, but very nicely finished and simply beautiful to look at. So yeah, so on again my more days where I want to be dressed a bit more minimalist, this is what I reach towards. Alright, up next is my beautiful Longines Heritage 1945. This Longines was probably my first significant purchase. I would say it was my first 4-figure purchase. I absolutely love the brand. I love this particular watch. The brand Longines has been around literally forever. The first registered watch trademark, I believe. It's a brand that's been knocking out of the park recently with their vintage re-releases. This particular version, inspired by Ben Clymer's of Holding Key. For you guys who don't know, Ben Clymer's own 1945 Longines. Longines saw their original vintage watch on Ben Clymer's Instagram, reached out to him, and decided to remake it, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, just look at that copper dial. Look at the brush, how brushed it is. Look at the vintage vibes that's giving off. It's beautiful. I think even though as you guys can see, it's not exactly one of my most expensive watches in my collection, but I think definitely it's still one of the most beautiful. Very very lovely vintage reissue. I think one of the best vintage reissues in recent years. Definitely a keeper, this one. Alright, up next is a rather unusual and rare Tissot. This is a Tissot Porto Z, I think it's called. It's a limited edition, I think, that was made in the early 2000s. It has a lovely guilloche dial, as you can see. It plays really nicely in the light. When I've been wearing this, people often mistake it for a Franck Muller. One even mistake it for a VC. So yeah, it's a very lovely dress watch. It has that nice, tonneau shape that Franck Muller has been, known for. Numerous reminiscences of Franck Muller as well. Basically, it's like a budget Franck Muller, but from an esteemed Swiss brand. Manual winding ETA movement. And overall, a very nice dress watch. I wear this, sometimes I get bored of my GLC. It still looks like a very expensive, very refined watch on the wrist. Interestingly, this is a limited edition as well to 6,666 pieces. So not that readily available worldwide. But yeah, one a very lovely piece with a very nice curved sapphire crystal. Very nice piece. Okay, next up is my Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical with a white dial. This is what I'll call my beater watch. I don't have many of my watches are dress watches, so very refined, elegant timepieces. This is not. This is a field watch. It's supposed to be a military watch, and I'll say this is my beater watch. I wear this, when I travel overseas, or basically when I don't want to, think too much about what I'm wearing. I'll just shout out to Cozy straps here, Cozy handmade straps. They're the ones that did this absolutely beautiful leather NATO strap, which I think pairs wonderfully with the Hamilton Khaki. The watch originally came with a NATO strap, but I think on this handmade leather NATO strap, the vintage vibes and of it, the explorer vibes of it, just explodes. Okay, next is actual vintage piece. One of my only vintage pieces left in my collection. It's a Mido multi-star for I think the 1970s. So on days where I want a bit more bling, this is the watch that I reached towards. I think it's a very nice vintage watch. It was definitely a conversation starter on multiple occasions. One thing that's unique about the watch, other than of course the indices and vintage vibe, is the crown actually. So to set the date, I don't know if you guys can see it, but to set the date, you simply press the crown, and if the date should jump, there you go. So you press the crown, and the date jumps. So it's a very unique complication, I suppose, or way of adjusting the date that I have not seen in other watches. So yeah, just something fun and unique about this watch. Alright, next I should probably talk about these two watches hand in hand. These two are very similar watches. I believe they are both part of the Seiko Cocktail Time series. The one on the right is the Irish Coffee. So this I think was a Asia or Singapore Asia limited edition, where it's supposed to mimic the look of the Irish coffee cocktail. The one on the left, I think it's a global edition called the Matcha, because as you guys can see, the dial mimics matcha. So let's start with the matcha one first. I'm a lover of matcha. I drink it almost every day. So when I saw the dial, when I saw it announced, I think monochrome or Fratello, I immediately knew I had to pull the trigger. Actually, prior to this, I have one watch per brand rule, so you can see the rest of my collection, the brands don't repeat itself. But this was the watch that caused me to sort of break that rule in a sense. Yeah, very slightly smaller than the Irish Coffee, so I guess it's a slightly different case, slightly different watch. But look at that green dial, man. Oh my god, that is so amazing. I think, honestly, for the price point, I think this was about 500 Singapore dollars. For the price point, Seiko makes some of the best dials and most interesting dials out there. I mean, it definitely looks more expensive than $500 and really reminiscent of matcha, actual matcha as well. The Irish Coffee, on the other hand, is a bit more complicated. You get the date indication at 6 in the sub dial, you get a power reserve indicator as well. There's a very nice sort of fume look sort of like a old parchment or old sofa sort of vintage look that I really love about Irish coffee. Again, I'm a huge coffee drinker as well. I need to drink it every day, I get a headache, that sort of thing. So when I first saw this watch, I knew I had to have it. Just the dial was just breathtaking to me, the way Seiko executed it, and the way it's pressed. Yeah, very nice watch on the wrist. A watch I think is selling well above its MSRP now, because again, these are limited editions or limited production watches. Alright, my second to last watch is a fun watch. It's a Swatch. Now, I think every collector should have a Swatch in his collection. For you guys who don't know, Swatch was basically one of the key brands that helped the Swiss industry as a whole get over the quartz crisis because of its ability to churn out, very funky looking, very fun quartz design. Now, this one in particular is called a Singapore tail. As you guys can see, there's Singapore on the dial. It's done by a local artist, I believe, with sort of like a porcelain sort of look. Very nice. I don't wear this often, but it's like a fun watch to support your local artist. I think something that is very special, about this watch is this band. So look at that. You get like the iconic Singaporean landmarks, design on the band. I think it's a very fun watch. It's a very fun watch. It's something that I wear when I meet my overseas friends and things like that. Not something I wear often, but again, something fun to remind me of home. Something fun, to be a bit patriotic, I suppose. Alright, last but not least is my G-Shock. Again, I think everybody should have a G-Shock in the collection. This is the watch I wear, when I go on runs, when I play tennis, when I go to the gym, not that it's very often, etc, etc. This, I believe, is the 5610, so updated version of the iconic, 5600 G-Shock. I think a G-Shock, with all the rage with the Casio Oak recently, I still think that a G-Shock should be square because that was what it was originally conceived as. Now, I'll be honest, the watch isn't really special, but it's not a limited edition or whatsoever. You can get this fairly easily, and there's not much to note about the watch as well, except I guess for the modded bezel update. But this was given to me by someone I guess that was important in my life. It was given to me by my ex in my previous relationship, which was my first relationship. So yeah, I guess it's one of the watches that hold sentimental values, and one that I think that I'll probably never sell. Alright, so those were the watches that were in my collection that I'll probably never sell, or at least I'm not planning to sell. However, as I'm sure with all watch enthusiasts, there are some watches that I am planning to sell. And I'm going to show you guys what they are, and I'm going to explain why I'm selling them. So the first watch I'm planning to sell is unfortunately, my Frederique Constant classic manufacturer Moonphase. So I know I just got this watch recently. I actually did a video on it if you guys haven't seen it already. But unfortunately, even though this is a beautiful watch, once I got my Reverso, I didn't really have a need for this particular watch. It's a beautiful watch, yes, but it can't compete with a Reverso, unfortunately. It's not supposed to. Reverso, I got it for twice the price I got the FC for, but that's just the way it is, I suppose. So yeah, I'm actually planning to sell this. I have it in full set at a very good price. If any of you guys are watching this video and want to purchase it for me, feel free to do so. I need the money for new watches. Now the next watch that I'm selling is my vintage lacquer watch. Now this is a very special watch. I chanced bought it in a second-hand shop because I was mesmerized and blown away by how unique it looked. Look at that blue dial, look at that Buckley dial with the printed indices, and of course the engraved bezel. All of us I think know of Laco as more of a pilot's watch brand. So this is actually a pre-restructured Laco dress watch, and I just thought it's very unique. There's a very royal look to it, and it's powered by ITA movement as well. So yeah, I got it. It was an impulse buy. Well, it's one of those that I realized I like to see it in a watch box. I admire it from afar, but I don't actually wear it that often because it just doesn't fit my aesthetic. It looks like something a king will wear or something. Someone perhaps a bit more advanced in age would wear, and I'm a young guy, so the whole gold tone and engraved thing, it doesn't really fit my style. But it's still definitely a very intriguing watch. So again, this is up for sale. If any of you guys are interested in it, is very unique and intriguing Laco engraved dress watch, which again powered by a Swiss ITA movement. Hit me up. The next watch I'm selling is my Orient Sun and Moon version 3. I was actually in two minds for selling this watch because honestly, I mean, look at that. Look at the dial. The dial is, I think Orion makes some of the best dials for the price point. The dial is fantastic, it's fabulous. I got it for about 200 plus Singapore dollars, and the amount of detail and depth and textures there are on the dial is simply, amazing, great bang for buck. I'll say probably the best dress watch for the price. But again, like I mentioned with the FC, that I do have, some of the other dress watches that I'm more drawn towards at the moment. The Reverso or even the Tissot or the vintage Mido. This is not one that I wear often. I think I purchased this about 2 years ago when I was more early on in my watch collecting journey. So at the point in time, this made sense. I have worn it quite a fair bit. But as of now that I'm more advanced in my watch collecting journey, it's not a watch that appeals much to me anymore. So again, if one of you is interested in the watch, hit me up. Now the last watch I'm selling is my vintage Omega Genève. So for those of you who have read my watch story article, this was actually the first watch I got for myself. First serious watch, I would say. I got it for my 21st birthday. I had a budget of $500. And I decided to get myself an Omega Genève, a big brand name, very clean design. I worn this a lot in my early days. It's a very reluctant sale because I think it has sentimental value for me, being my first watch. I got my 21st birthday watch as well. But again, like I mentioned, as I've grown, in my collection, this is not one that I wear very often nowadays, especially now that I have the Speedmaster. I think I'll wear the Speedmaster much more often than I'll wear this. I simply don't foresee myself wearing the Omega Genève anymore, I would say. So rather than it, collecting dust in a box, I'd rather pass it on, to someone that will wear it in good health. So yeah. Alright, so I hope you guys found this video interesting. So this as of now is my start of 2021 watch collection. I hope it gives you guys some insight into the way I collect, what are some of the watches in my personal collection, my personal taste in watches, so on and so forth. If you guys like this video, do give it a like, do subscribe to the channel and share it around. As always, I'll see you guys in my next video. Ciao!